Dismissive, smug, condescending,
Snarky.
arrogant, snarky.
What?
His position was anybody that knows me knows that I don't hate black people. I'm not a racist. People were trying to tell him, we all don't know you.
Right.
Joe Budden responds to the reappearance of Rory's divisive tweets. Additionally, the episode discusses the termination of a previous Joe Budden podcast co-host. It's no secret that Joe Budden and Rory are still in love. Joe Budden may act as though he and Rory are buddies now, but during their separation, he called Rory everything but a child of God and a pitiful white guy who wrecked his kingdom. And he's holding him responsible now that those tweets have surfaced. However, let's examine what the entire podcast accomplished and analyze the dynamics that will be there when all of these people who knew Rory in the past discuss him. Rory's remarks regarding the GNX album and how it shouldn't win the Grammy in light of the Clips album, which many people believe is superior to the GNX album, are the root of the problem.
I think they'll give it to Clips, let God sort them out, but won't give it to him in the Album of the Year category. I don't think they'll snub the Clips twice. I don't think the Grammys has the ball.
Following that, Rory would be canceled followed by Kendrick fans, who would bring up some of his previous, quite questionable tweets. They were not well considered. He was most likely the same as he was 15 years ago. These tweets, which started in 2010 and continued throughout 2014, 2015, and 2016, even cited Beyoncé. These tweets were also highly troublesome. Everyone on the internet was set on fire after that. Rory would therefore take to Twitter to defend himself in the worst way possible. There were just Kendrick fans in the area where he was. As previously mentioned, these individuals were referred to as bona fide boogeymen, Whoopin' Feet, and Kendrick Fan 87. Thus, as soon as he enters, it turns left because they begin to attack him.
Do it or don't. Do it or don't.
Because I promise your motherfucking
Do it or don't.
ain't nobody
Do it or
can
don't.
save you white boy.
Furthermore, it was unclear if those fans were genuinely offended by his remarks or if they were just taking part in a selective cancellation because they were Kendrick supporters. Yes, the tweets were terrible, but aside from a few people, it never seemed like he was being held responsible for the original transgression in that setting. That's what the Joe Budden podcast would respond to. Additionally, Mark Lamont Hill would restrain his brother.
Back in the day on old school Twitter, there was no retweet button. You typed RT and then wrote what the other person said. So sometimes people were interpreting him as saying something that he actually didn't say. He was retweeting something.
Keep in mind that he treated Mark and Rory with kindness because they are both Kappas. In addition to being Kappas, they seem to have a dynamic and speak a lot. Thus, the way he was discussing the topic was indicative of it. I couldn't help but notice Mona's lack of knowledge.
Okay.
I don't know what y'all talking about right now.
She had no idea what Rory did, and I think that could be a problem going forward. This is the Joe Budden podcast, after all. You would think that she would be aware of current events in pop culture, but she was not, and it was evident in the manner she would approach this subject, discussing cancellation in general terms rather than being aware of the specifics. She nearly seems to be making an effort to learn, and it sounds like she's getting ready for a show that will take her to new locations. Joe then lets the cannon go and begins accusing Rory of being conceited and haughty, of handling the cancellation incorrectly, and of doing everything that might have gone wrong. Even though he did let the cannon go, I think he was entirely correct. Rory just asked, why would you enter a place full of those kinds of fans? I believe he ought to have handled it similarly to what Park stated on his own program.
Platform like he has, like
Right.
you could just do it right there. And
He needed to have brought in a third speaker who could address the subtleties of the period, while also acknowledging that the first tweets were incorrect. Therefore, in my opinion, Joe was correct in what he stated, even if he was criticizing his former co-host friend, who is a friend of mine. As I mentioned before, Mark stated that it was a different era, emphasizing how people used to say the most ridiculous things on Twitter. Joe even claims that this was the case and that he would take part in it.
For it. I participated.
The days of Twitter, Additionally, we must also keep in mind the links between the majority of the old Twitter podcast days. Ice was a member of a cancellation attempt when his previous tweets reappeared. Therefore, he didn't actually go wild on Rory, which is appropriate to do since he possesses the same kind of charges in his closet. Thus, he kind of would have left things alone. Ish also provided good guidance regarding how you don't really actually have to be up there, since it invites lines of inquiry, lines of asking questions that aren't truly productive, and that merges the line between questioning and accusing and being offensive. Joe continues by saying that he feels that such rules allow white people to function in specific areas. I'm assuming he implies that you are aware of cultural commentary, be it hip-hop or otherwise. That's what he stated there. Mark also accepted the reasons behind Rory's actions, the manner in which he stated that he most likely felt protective because particular people in the area were pointing out, like, I'm going to see you. If you're upset and don't want anything to do with me, I'll see you. I'll take off, there was a man who actually had a macho man's voice. Next, Joe concludes the entire section by stating that he feels and is aware that Rory isn't racist. Yes, I do. Rory seems racist to me. Naturally, he does, which seemed like a really wonderful thing to me for him to do since numerous individuals, particularly in light of Joe and Rory's history, would have abandoned Rory. Thus, you get the impression that the entire podcast sought to restrain him. Thus, it wasn't always the shooting or the kind of action you take against an enemy, and it is told to me, hey man, Rory's cool. With the majority of the program taking place outside of anything that was going on between him and Joe. I, Mark, held it down in a cruel way. Parks even held it down. Ice didn't actually take part. He even said something like, yo, you can't really apologize since they began discussing someone else. I express regret for their previous tweets and how many were upset about those tweets. I apologize. This was a selective cancellation caused by the reality that Rory held a view that other people shared, disagree with. However, at the core, the tweets were poor as a result. They weren't very good. And ever since, Rory has removed every one of his tweets. I don't believe the account is returning. Individuals are, oh, he just deactivated it, he said. It will return. Additionally, I don't understand. I believe it would be better if Rory just created a fresh account and leaned into the reality that he was mistaken. He will need to apologize once more, as with the episode that he released on Friday. He weren't satisfied with the apologies. Individuals in my recommendation that he have someone on the program who could discuss the reasons his tweets were incorrect, what he was pondering and experiencing, and comments on the nature of social media, like it was probably the best back then path. One other thing, I'll terminate my video by stating that Rory actually has to figure out why he felt that arguing and going on Spaces for 4 hours was a wise choice. It's a powerful fault in his character, and something that he must traverse going forward. Moreover, given his age, he most likely ought to have used a more comprehensive approach, because he exacerbated the situation more than it had to be. And additionally, the reason it ended up on TMZ was due to his own activities. And he must, when he goes into these areas, look into it. Is he actually paying attention to others, or is he merely listening to cut them off and engage in conflict? But let me know in the comments what you think. Is the Joe Budden podcast appealing to you? Handled this correctly? I know many people are interested in this, circumstances covered in a particular manner, but some persons have ties to Rory. People genuinely love him and feel that Rory is taking care of them. I mean, Rory is a person who has made numerous individuals in situ and provided them with relationships and watched out for them. Thus, they won't always open fire on him. Given his good grace, Rory constructed a large number of individuals. In light of that, she said the Stop Follow Me on Instagram, TV, the Stop TV, and follow me on Twitter. And remember to use my Patreon, where I've written a lot about this topic, and even have a room with Rory where he discusses the circumstances. And in that area, I think we were able to have more of a one-on-one dialogue in which those on the call weren't just fans of Kendrick, but also experienced problems with the tweets. It seemed like a decent dialogue, and you know Homeboy likes having conversations like these. Okay, everyone, I'm Danny from The Quiet Tranquility.